up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. I made a video for the 50K or 50,000 subs, and I showed my new tattoos. This one for my grandmother, and realized, I keep getting a lot of requests for story times. You guys like these, and I haven't even done a story time about my grandmother, who I got the cross for. So without further ado, this one is about Graham. Well, my grandmother was French Canadian. She her maiden name was Yurgo, and from as far back as I can remember, Graham was always very upbeat, very rough. Like, she was tough. She was only about 4 feet tall. She was built like a bulldog, very similar to my mom. My mom has a lot of her traits. And her and my grandfather had 5 kids, and each one of those kids had anywhere from 2 to 3 kids of their own. So we came from a big family, okay? So we had aunts and uncles and cousins, and we all lived within, 15 minutes drive of each other at the furthest. And we would be together a lot, holidays, summers, stuff like that. My grandmother was basically the glue that kept that family together, okay? She was the one, and I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. I don't understand why to this day, but it seems like ever since she passed away that the family just wasn't the same. It's just strange. So, Graham, that's what we called her, Graham. Graham kind of picked up the slack. Her and my Auntie Lori, when my parents had to work, both parents had to work, and summers, me and my brother were out of school. We'd spend a lot of time with my Auntie Lori and my grandmother, Graham. So we'd go to the fruit stand. There was actually no fruit at this fruit stand, but on the side of the road, my grandfather was a farmer. He would bring home bushels of green beans, green peppers, cucumbers, native corn, tomatoes, and my grandmother would sell them on the side of the road for extra money. That's what they always did. So me and my brother would be at the fruit stand, again, no fruit, with her during the days and stuff. Or, if they weren't running the fruit stand, she would come to our house out in Barrington, or, we'd go to my Auntie Lori's house in the pool. Grandma would be there. So basically, she kind of was like a second kind of mom, I guess. But, we called her Graham, and she was always funny, always active, too. A very active lady. She was always moving around, swimming, going places. She'd hop on the bus and go to the bingo. She loved the bingo. She'd go to Connecticut, hop on the bus and go to, the casino in Connecticut and go to the bingo, and just active all the time. And she was very, very religious. When I think of the cross, honestly, that's why the cross is in mind. When I think of the cross, the crucifix, I think of my grandmother. Which some of you may be like, what the fuck? That's what I think of. She would say stuff like, you would stub your toe, and she'd be like, oh, God punished you. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I didn't even do anything. And she'd be like, that's for something we didn't see. God sees everything. Like, she was very religious and believed that God would get you. So you do something wrong, they may not see it, but God was going to get you with it. And it's stuff like that makes me laugh and, smile, and that I think of. And that's why the cross is on my arm. It reminds me of my grandmother. Now, fast forward from my childhood to, early adulthood, I started to get wrapped up in the drugs and, pretty much be a real shit. I was a bad person, let's face facts. I did and said bad things. And one Christmas Eve, I don't even know what year this was. One Christmas Eve, Graham was like really tired. And we all went to Grandma and Gramps' house on Christmas Eve, the whole family. So everybody jammed inside their house. And, she was usually playing the hostess, running around, doing stuff. Well, this time she was very, like low-key. Like, was tired, didn't feel well. But, like a month before, she was in the driveway playing basketball with us. And here's a 7-year-old woman playing basketball in the, she's 4 feet tall. It's a long way to the rim, right? So, something just wasn't right. It seemed like off. You just didn't see her be like that. And she couldn't go up and down the stairs to do the laundry without getting tired, which really was just not a problem for her whole life. So, at that point, I think, people knew something was wrong. They're like, well, maybe she just, she's finally slowing down. She's getting older. So I think it was maybe 3 or 4 days after Christmas, my mom took her to the doctors, and they ran a bunch of tests and stuff. And, she wasn't really getting worse, but she wasn't feeling good. It was like a sickness that, drained, kind of tired, kind of just strange feeling that she hadn't really felt before. And they got the test results back, and it came that they found that she had ovarian cancer. Now, she hadn't gone for her woman checkup, or whatever you call it, to the gynecologist, whatever, for like years. She was the type of person, and I'm very much like this too, which could be bad. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I feel fine, so I don't need to go. That was her way of thinking. Well, by the time they had found this cancer, it had spread through her whole body. There was nothing they could do. So the effects she was feeling of the cancer is why she was starting to slow down and not feel well. So the doctors told her that, we could try some therapies. It's not going to stop it. It may slow it down, but we can't cure it. It's too far gone. we'll give you, maybe 6 months to live if, you don't do it. If you do it, maybe we can extend it. And they let her know, that it could be extremely painful. It may not extend it that long. We just don't know enough to know how well you're going to respond to the treatments. So Graham, being the religious person that she was, would say stuff like, I'm going home to God. It's time to go. Nope. God has called my number. It's time for me to go. And, to me, it was very hard to hear that because, at the time I had a very hard time with religion based on the fact that I had seen so many bad things and done so many bad things that I couldn't see past myself to see anything spiritual or religious or anything in my life. So how could you put your faith in something to die instead of, it was like on her part a very unselfish thing to do so that her family wouldn't see her suffering. And she was ready to go back to God. And, I just remember sitting there going, she's crazy, she's crazy, she's crazy. And then she got sicker and sicker and sicker. And we watched her just go downhill and still have a great attitude, still laugh, still joke. And, she basically was in the house. And I remember, family would come over a lot more often now. Like everybody was showing up all the time and trying to spend as much time as they could with her. And, I remember her, laying down and she was tired or whatever. I said, "Hey, Grandma, you hungry?" And she said, "Yeah, I could eat." And I'm like, "You want a Big Mac? I'll go to McDonald's down the road and get you a Big Mac if you want it." She would kind of laugh, and you could see her progressively getting worse and worse. And it's a hard thing to watch, And then like the hospice comes, they come to the house, they set up the hospital bed in the bedroom, and this is my first experience, by the way, at probably like 20-something years old, a young adult, with all this going on. I'd never seen any of it. This was hospice. I don't know what the fuck I was 20-something years old. I didn't really understand that concept of what it was. And then, quickly she went downhill after that. Wasn't a lot of pain, but you could see, I don't know how to explain it. You could see her soul being damaged, being ripped out. I don't know how to explain it to you. I really don't, because I'm not good with descriptions. Sometimes I'm very good with descriptions, but this I'm not. Maybe it's an emotional thing that I can't pull out. But and my mom called me one night and she said, your grandmother is taking a turn for the worse. You better get here. So I went over there and I walk in and she said, "I'm in bed. Hey, JW," and I'm like, "What the fuck? I thought she was doing bad." My mom's like, "She was. She bounced back." So I'm like, "Holy shit! She's looking good. Maybe this is the upswing. Like, maybe she's gonna be fine. Like, who the fuck knows?" And everybody was like, "What the fuck?" And then she would take a turn for the worse again, like real quick. And let me shut off this message. Then she would take a turn for the worse. And then I get the call again, and my mom would be like, "You need to come. Graham's doing bad." And I'd show up, and she'd be sitting there kind of laughing and joking. I'm like, "What the fuck? She doesn't look bad at all. What the fuck is going on?" Like, this is so confusing to me, because, again, first time I've ever seen anything like this. And if you've ever known someone who passed away, you know that they have these moments of clarity and peace, and then they go back and forth. And finally I get the call again. It says, "Your grandmother's doing bad again. You better come." And at this point I said, "All right, you know what? Me and my girlfriend, we're out to dinner. I'll stop by afterward to dinner. We're going to go to dinner first." So we show up at my grandmother's house. And my mom, my Auntie Lori, and my cousin Heather were there by her bedside. And we walk in the room, and there she is in the process of passing away, dying. And I just stood there at the door casing, like kind of like how my face, like, here's the room, the door casing, like out of the room, and it just kind of just was barely peeking in, like half in, and watched her die. And you know what? Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not a peaceful thing. It's not. Even though she was dying of cancer after she was gone, it was still sad. It wasn't like, at least she's at peace. And, my mom and my aunt and my cousin were saying, "It's okay, go with God." And I kept hearing this religious, they had their crucifixes and their prayer beads, and they were, praying for her. And they were, telling her it's okay to go. And then it was over. That was it. And I remember sitting back and going like, well, now what? I don't understand what happened. Like, I don't understand what just happened. Like, it took me a little while for reality to snap in and for me to realize what had just happened. And it was sad. It was very sad. To this day, I still, I don't talk about it much. And Kari even was like, "Why are you getting a tattoo for your gram if you don't really talk about it that much? Like, it seems like it hasn't really affected you that much." But at the time I was on drugs, I still have a hard time processing things. Hey, bro. I still have a hard time processing things that happened to me when I was on drugs, because I don't want to face them a lot of times. And although Graham's been gone for a very long time now, it was only about 4 or 5 weeks from the time she was diagnosed to the time she died. It was like in February, and she was diagnosed in early January. It was just so fast, like, seemed to happen like that. And I look back now, and that was really the turning point in our family. It didn't come unglued, but it wasn't as close after Graham was gone. And, to this day, when I go back and visit, my grandfather, I go in the room where she passed away, and I kind of look around, and, it's very surreal because, it's always been Graham's house, and it still is Graham's house. And you walk in there, and she's been gone so long, and she's not there, and you kind of almost expect her to be there, like when you walk in. And like I said, these days I still have a hard time, dealing with stuff that happened when I was on drugs. And, I was thinking, like, what represents Graham the most? The cross. The cross does, but a cool cross. A cool cross to me. Graham would like a cool cross, not something that was very, lame. So I saw the cool cross, and I said, that's the one for Graham. I'm getting it on my forearm. And when I look at it, I kind of smile because Graham was a very caring person. She was tough as fuck. I mean, she was a very tough lady. And maybe that's where I get some of it from. If you combine my grandmother and my grandfather, there's some two tough motherfuckers right there. Plain and simple. Anybody that's watching this that knows my family, you're going to know I'm speaking the truth right there. They're going to be like, JW, watch your mouth. But bottom line is they know I'm speaking the truth. So that's my story about Graham. And I'll miss her till the day I die. But now I have a permanent mark on my body that'll remind me of her every single day. bios3training@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.bios3training.com is the blog, and where this one's for you, Graham Bicep. And we're out.